Hey everybody, welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I'm Riley Silverman from the internet, I guess, from Nerdist and lots of other outlets. Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry, you told me how it was going to go, and I've done it before, and I still did it wrong.
Once people see that on-air light go on, it's just they just get panicked.
I'm like, do they say our guest is, or they just pause? I don't know what's happening. No one told me the odds.
Well, this is not going to go the way you think.
I have a bad feeling about this.
But yeah, thanks for coming back, Riley, to help us talk about minute 76 of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Very
76.
Exciting.
Trombones tell you that Rey should have felt trapped or panicked. And then at the end, we find out that we see Rey's parental dyad coming into focus. There's two parents walking towards her. Then it turns out there's just one set of footprints, and then we don't know. It's a shadow. But before we get to that we're going to dig into that a little bit. But before we get to that, we just have the kind of continuation of the kind of mystical Hall of Mirrors here in the seaweed cave. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of the snap does come back around. Remember, we were talking about this a little bit. So she snaps and it goes kind of forward, but comes back around. But then she also does say that it doesn't go on forever.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting. Where is it in motion? How much of this is a hallucination or a vision? How much of this is really there? Because we'll get some more evidence for that later in the week, but I don't know what is it? Do you see it as being an infinite loop, or do you see it as being just kind of her looking at her reflection? What is she imagining? What is she seeing?
I see it as it begins and ends with her. Like, because if it loops back around and then it like starts when she does it and it goes around and then comes back to her again.
Right.
So that's kind of what I think the message is supposed to be. Is that because like at this point, and especially when this film was made and the intention was to be like nothing else about you is important except for who you are. Right. I think that it puts her at the center of her own story and says that this begins and ends with you.
I like that. I like that a lot. Alex?
I think the whole thing has a kind of dream logic where it's not really, it's like when you're trying to describe, it's like, oh, my teacher was there, but it was also my dad. It's like that kind of a thing, like where it can mean multiple things at the same time. I mean, I interpreted it as I briefly mentioned last week that it was kind of like the way the Force, you control it, and it also. It controls your actions, but it also obeys your commands. So in the same way, she starts it by snapping. At one point, the snap sort of like goes through her. And I almost got the impression like she could not have not snapped at that moment because all the other Reys were snapping. So, that was her destiny at that point to snap. But
it's going to make you snap.
It's like when you start the wave at a sporting event.
Right.
And then you're like, well, I made this happen. I shouldn't have to stand up anymore. The wave is already. But then, like when it comes back around, you're like, well, I have to do it this time at least.
I did my part.
I made it. Yeah. So like now the momentum of the wave you created makes you do the wave as well.
I like that your stickler is at once into the wave to the point where they want to start it, but not so into the wave where they actually want to have to stand up twice. The second time they're just full. No, I already did it. What are you? This?
Yeah.
So I like that.
Very fickle waiver there.
I do like the idea of Rey snapping and it goes all the way in one direction and then it stops and then she's sitting there chanting like, send it back, send it back.
Or it's like a game of telephone where she sends a snap, it goes around, and then by the time it gets back to her, it's like a series of elaborate collapses.
They're playing Zip Zap Zop by the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the idea that there's a Rey that we're not seeing on camera who's like, oh, again with the snap. Like, she's just done with it, and it keeps coming by, and she's like, we have to keep doing this? This is just, like, ugh. I'm going to go build a double-bladed lightsaber.
Contains a multitude. So one thing it got me thinking of was other famous snaps in motion picture history.
I don't think there've been any.
Well, I've probably the most recent one, and is of course our old friend Thanos, who wiped out half the universe with one snap. And
should we mix that into here? So it's like Rey snap, 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 Thanos, and then it's like,
I am inevitable.
Not you.
I am all the Jedi.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong film. Sorry.
She's
not there yet.
Wearing the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And
I am
West
Iron
Side
Man.
West Side Story, another famous snapping.
Sure.
So it's fun to picture an army of Rays on one side and an army of Thanoses on the other, and they're both doing their snapping. Yeah.
Right. When you're a Ray all the way.
I feel like I would be doomed if I was required to save the destiny of either Star Wars or the MCU, because I cannot snap my fingers. I've never been able to do it my entire life.
Huh.
I cannot do it. I don't got rhythm. And I think that whenever I see a thing where like snapping your fingers is the
Oh boy.
the thing that brings it all together, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I guess the universe is done. Sorry.
You have to
I guess she
bring
didn't,
in, like,
she didn't have to snap her fingers to save the universe, but maybe she did. It
Yeah.
sets things in motion. We never know.
you have to bring in a stunt hand to do the snap. Snap.
I just
model.
need a really good audio effects artist to put in the sound of the snap after I just do the motion of the snap.
Yeah.
There
Or
you
they
go.
could put your hand in like a green glove and then just have Andy Serkis do the actual.
Yeah, that's what I need to have
The
happen.
actual
A circus.
I
Circus
made
snap.
snap.
I was the
one who bridged your fingers.
I think Daisy Ridley has an odd-looking snap. While we're on this subject, because I feel like
Wow.
most people when they snap, your finger tends to like I don't know. She ends her snaps with her hand in like a fist, and it seems odd to me. But,
It's like a twist to
No,
it.
I do that too.
Yeah.
'Cause I do like
Let's
a
say.
this.
but the way
That's
your
my
thumb
snap.
is sticking up, like hers is like inward or something. Anyway, people can watch.
Maybe
it
it's just
for
how
themselves.
British people snap. Maybe it's like, you know how like there's different ways. Like remember in
that you in there.
Inglourious Basterds where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Germans do it this way and English and British do it this way. Maybe that's how
right.
the fingers go. Maybe British
Yeah.
had different snaps, you know?
Hmm.
I think it could also be like the way people hold pencils or like a pen. Pens
Right.
are things people used to write with before the computers. And I think if you
Stylus.
know,
We
like
call it a stylus these days.
oh,
right?
stylus.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, there you go. But everyone holds pens in their own grotesque like
Yeah,
the way I
I-
hold a pen is totally normal. The way everyone else holds a pen is like, oh, that cannot be comfortable like that. So,
I admittedly have terrible pen holding technique
uh-huh.
to where like as a result I also have terrible handwriting, and it was something that was never corrected in me. I never had I never had that nun smacking my hand with a ruler like you see in like
Yeah.
old movies, but I just instead got bad grades in handwriting and then moved on and never got like an actual like instruction on how to fix it. It's also why I'm not a good drawer, I think. So
I wonder if that has if the snapping, your lack of snappability is combined with your
Hmm.
I'm sure it's all connected. It's
your-
been a
your,
life of disprivilege because I don't know how to snap my fingers or hold a pen properly.
Now, this is going way into the snap. Alex, what finger are you snapping with when you snap?
let's see.
Which your thumb and is up against which finger?
middle finger, of course.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, me too.
Why?
Usually, I can do the other. I can do my ring finger too, and
Oh,
my
weird.
pointer, but I'm not rubbing it in, Riley. I'm not saying,
No, I
can
get it.
snap
It's
with
fine.
three different
You
fingers.
bring guests on and you just like mock their inability to do certain.
Watch me
functions.
snap,
It's fine.
huh?
I also you're like, let's not get too much into the snap as if we're not watching an entire minute of somebody snapping
That's
their
true.
fingers over and over again.
Well, we also find out that Ray. Then we get a it's a voiceover. We'll find out more about this in tomorrow's minute. But Ray is kind of
Yeah.
narrating her vision after the fact because it's Ray's voiceover. It's in the past tense, so she's talking about what she did in this moment. And she says that she should have felt trapped or panicked, but she didn't. And that made me think back to, again, we're doing lots of comparisons between the seaweed hole and the magic tree. Do you think Luke looked like he definitely felt trapped and panicked in Yoda's magic tree when he saw Vader?
Oh, when he lashed out and cut the head off?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
seemed a little bit scared. Yeah.
I mean, and does that say more about the nature of Luke's fears and what he's looking for and what he's, does that say more about Luke's kind of background and Luke's intent, or more about Luke's character versus Rey's character in terms of their constitution as a Jedi?
I think there's a little bit of not just Luke's personality and Rey's personality, but also their particular relationships with their antagonist. Because, like, I think that Rey, and I won't get into too much of this for this minute, but Rey has a very different relationship with Kylo than Luke has with Darth Vader at the
Right.
point where he sees Darth Vader in the tree in Dagobah, where Luke's pretty much only experience with Vader is that he killed Kenobi right in front of him. And now Rey did see Kylo kill Solo, but she also knows that Kylo is Solo's son, and so that's an element to it. So I think she already has this mentality of like, I can bring him back. There's something I can do for him. Like I can feel this pain in him that I can fix. Whereas I think Luke only sees Vader as the villain who killed his mentor and attacked the base, and doesn't know yet that it's his father. So that's why he then gets the mentality in the next film of like, I can save him. So I think that that's a lot to do with it. I think that Rey is already kind of coming from this position of a peaceful solution with her enemy. And so she's not being seen these like hateful attacks that she has to have.
Right.
I like that. I wonder if it would have been different if Luke had gone back to the magic tree after knowing Darth Vader was his father. Would his magic tree experience have been, because clearly then he was worried about like becoming evil. That's what his fear was.
Yeah.
But I wonder what it would have been in the other in the second case.
It would have been like he just kind of walks through, and then all of a sudden he's in like an old-fashioned 70s den or TV room, and it's just Darth Vader sitting on the couch like, hey, Luke, hey, have a seat, you want some popcorn? Root beer? I'm about to watch The Waltons, something like that. Like, just totally like he walks into like a family scenario.
WandaVision.
With his lightsaber out. Like,
Having your own home is awesome, but it's also a lot of work. The good news? Finding help for your projects is easier than ever. Introducing Angie, the app that puts all your home care needs at your fingertips. Need a pro to fix that emergency leak? Maybe find someone to build a deck, or even set your seasonal tasks on autopilot. Angie can handle all that and more. Expert pros, hundreds of home projects, clear pricing, and the easiest way to book and pay in seconds. This is Angie, your home for everything home. Download the app today.
Has this ever happened, filmmaking wise, where
to you? Has this ever happened to you, where you see yourself in an infinity mirror and then
are you
suddenly...
plagued by a magic tree?
Yes.
Wait. Oh, so yeah, I was asking about the you were talking about how this turns. We kind of walk backwards into a flashback here. Like, so I don't recall that ever happening before. We're kind of like a voiceover took us from one tense to another tense. I know we're always on the lookout for which filmmaking tricks have never been employed in Star Wars before,
right?
But
yeah, because it's not. It's present tense that then suddenly kind of merges into a past tense. Well, becomes what we're seeing is present tense while we're watching it, and then it becomes everything's past tense because it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But
yeah,
but for the character's perspective, it's past tense for the character as well.
It was present tense. We see her go in there. We're just watching her actively, and then suddenly the voiceover makes it kind of, oh, this is what happened. We're getting that related. I wonder if there is a specific name for that. I read it's not a Jay Splice. We don't have the return of Jay Splice, my DJ name, but it's because we do get kind of mixed audio of her voiceover with the audio of what's actually happening. So,
well, and we'll get into this more tomorrow, but it's also a misdirect, right? Like the audience that has seen this for the first time doesn't know who she's talking to,
right?
And so I think the intention is supposed to be that you're supposed to believe that she's talking to Luke right now about her training, and then we find out something else tomorrow. We'll talk about it, but I think that's an interesting aspect of it as well. I'm really impressed in general overall with the filmmaking styles of this movie. I think that it's one of the best as from a filmmaking point of view. It's one of the best. It may be the best in my opinion in the entire saga, and I think the visuals of this, the kind of unsettling elements of it, and I think Ryan had a really tough, because the magic tree is such an iconic moment in Empire, which is before this considered by most the best film in the series. Like it's like, okay, how do I take something so similar to that moment and then make it kind of my own thing that is operating on its own 2 feet, even though it does get compared to it. And I think he did a pretty good job of it. I think the us being put off a bit by the walking into the flashback with the back talk of I don't know how to phrase things, but I think that left the audience unsettled in a way that kind of helped us to experience that unsettling element of it the way that Ray would be. But I also don't remember feeling uncomfortable by it. So it's similar. Like, I think I was like, oh, this feels like I do feel calm, because it's like the audio is so well mixed and the shots are so well paced that there is kind of a rhythm that you get lulled into with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. That's the line to walk. Is the it's like a minefield, because on either side you have, oh, this is just a rehash, and on the other side you have, oh, that's not Star Wars, and like to walk in between that valley is that.
It's a world between worlds, you might say.
Exactly. There's some good, and not everything works for everybody, and nor obviously that's going to be the case, but yeah, I think the most kind of bold attempts at new stuff that work happen in this movie. So it's definitely trying to expand the kind of the language of the cinematic language, the language of Star Wars visually, and kind of trying to do new things with that, and narratively, also kind of taking some chances, and it's a interesting blend of things, and I'm glad that we have that.
Well, and to your point about it working for some people, not other people, even I, who now I probably put this at the top of my list, which I'm sure you're gonna make me do at some point in this week, but I struggled with this movie a lot when I first saw it. I remember not loving it when I left the theater with it, and really kind of like, I remember I went from the theater to a comic shop, and there was like a party happening, like a little like gathering, and I was like, oh, I just saw Last Jedi, and someone's like, what'd you think of it? I'm like, I think I liked it, I don't know. And then it was one of those ones where, partially from being in the like fan group for this podcast when there was like the spoiler section that we talked about it, and also just things from it, like this moment lingering in my head as like the weekend went on, and like I kept thinking about it, and like by the time I saw it in theaters a second time, I was like completely in the tank for it. But it took me, it was a movie that I had to process and like kind of come to peace with, and then once I did, then I was able to appreciate things like we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, my view on it is still evolving. That I had no idea what to think the first time I saw it. I was like, I think I like. There's definitely things that I liked in there. Did I like it as a whole? And then, the more I watch it, the more things I appreciate, and the things that kind of bothered me don't bother me as much. And I don't know. It's certainly an interesting movie that's given us a lot to talk about, which is great.
Well, while we're here, then, Riley, do you remember where you first saw it and everything? All that?
Yeah, I saw it. I actually got lucky because it was one of those ones where, like, it was selling out, so all this kind of stuff. And I used to work at an office in Burbank where you actually have come in the past to record this show with me. Mm-hmm. But I no longer work there because they shut down because something happened. But we actually permanently closed that office. But anyway, not important. There's 3 different AMC theaters in Burbank, California, and there's like a big 16-screen one that's like the big crowded one. Then there's one in the mall, and there's one over like past the mall. And so it's pretty easy, like if you know what to look on the apps and stuff, where like you can find screenings. And I just randomly found like 5 o'clock screening on the Friday it had opened, because I wasn't able to go to the midnight screenings the night before, and I worked until 5. So I just, like, as soon as work ended, I ran over to the mall and jumped into my seat. And I think that was around the time a Movie Pass was still a thing, so I used my Movie Pass to get the ticket, which was great. And then because I had bought a ticket to see it, but I had not been able to get a ticket until like Saturday evening. And so just randomly finding this 5 o'clock screening was like perfect, because now suddenly I was able to go see it. But I think that factored into my initial malaise about it, because I was also coming right off of work, and I was kind of like, I didn't have that like pre-show like build up. I was kind of like, oh, I can get a ticket, let's go do it. And so like I didn't have that chance to kind of like unwind from work first and then be like in the best spirit to watch it.
Like wait in line for a little bit with some other nerds, and walk around with an oversized beverage, talking to people about their shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why, like, not to get too deep into the movie after this, but that's why I think I appreciated it more than a lot of other people did, because I saw it with my best friend from high school, who I'd waited in line to see Phantom Menace with. So it was like this really fun, like, circle of things. So like I was primed for joy, you know. Whereas when I saw this one, I was primed for, I'm so glad to not be at work anymore. I hope this Star Wars movie makes my day, Yeah. So.
Wait a minute! I was challenged. I was done with work. I wasn't expecting to be challenged.
Yeah.
So I'm making a little note in my notebook. Riley Rise of Skywalker, because we're
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I will be upset if I'm not on it because I'm an apologist for it, so I will be excited to be. Yeah.
you're on my team on that. Alex and I are going to be divided, and we're gonna
Yes.
we're gonna each. I think we're gonna each bring team people to defend our case. It's going to be like a
How will you
lawsuit.
find people who have strong opinions about Star Wars?
I somebody said if we put something out on the internet, we might get some responses. So we'll see. We'll
We'll see how it goes.
maybe tweet about it or
I'll hopefully have my Rey lightsaber by then. So
Nice.
that'll be good. I already have one, but I'll get the official one by then.
Well, so speaking of ideas
Sorry.
and being challenged and talking with nerds about it, this is a good. Who did you think this was going to turn out to be as this? Because the minute here ends in a great cliffhanger where it's like, oh,
Yeah, it
like
does.
Rey's like, I'm going to see my parents, and we see kind of two shapes, and then it slowly resolves into one shadow as she's touching it, but we don't know anything about what's going on. And we had Steele on last week who said like that minute felt like an eternity in the theater. It was like, who did you? We had all kinds of fan theories, going on beforehand about who she was possibly related to, and I don't know why it was such a hot topic. But who did you expect, and who did you hope for if they weren't the same?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you say that and about what Steele said, because now that you mentioned that eternity feeling, I definitely think that was a moment in the theater where I maybe was more frustrated with the scene than not knowing what I know now, because you were waiting for this to be a big reveal, and then it almost felt like a tease when it wasn't the reveal, and I think that was really frustrating. It's easier to not feel frustrated by it now because I know how it plays out, both in this movie's narrative and the next movie's narrative, and either one, I know that now. But I didn't think that she was a Skywalker. Because I felt like Luke clearly didn't know who she was, and I felt like he would have recognized her a little bit if he was related to her, she was related to him. And I did think there was something because of Maz's line to Solo and to Han in the previous film with the "Who's the girl?" Like I was like, why would he know something about this girl? Like it works as a throwaway line, but it didn't feel like it at the time, and it wasn't, because it was already written as a mystery box. But I think I was on team Rey Kenobi. I think I really thought that there was going to be a Kenobi thing, and it clearly we've heard that was actually definitely in contention at one point. So I don't think I was completely off base for thinking that. But I think that is mostly because I love Kenobi, and so I think that the idea of bringing Kenobi, I've long been the champion of the idea that I think Obi-Wan should have been the point of view character for the prequel films, and so more than he was already. But so I think that. Because that's definitely me bringing my own thing to the movie. I always think when we talk about the magic tree, I think one of the most poignant things in discussing Star Wars in general is when Yoda says, "Only what you bring with you" when you go into the magic tree. And I think that is that is what happens with Star Wars films. I think I tweeted before Rise of Skywalker, like, "Hey, what's in there?" And the theater guy was like, "Only what you bring with you." And that's like, so I think that my wanting her to be a Kenobi is definitely based in my own particular love of Obi-Wan Kenobi and like wanting him to have a presence in this sequel series, because he doesn't have one, as opposed to the way that, aside from being the namesake of Ben Solo, you don't really get a Kenobi presence the way you do in both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy.
Right.
I want it to be like the movie Clue, where depending on which ending you get, like the thing turns into different people. Like, oh, this is the Palpatine version, or oh, this is the Beauchamp
I want it to be
version.
like Clue, and then I want it to have been Tim Curry the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
If Tim Curry was Ray, I'd be very fine with that. If we just retconned it so it was like actual Tim Curry, yeah.
I honestly don't remember what I thought was going to be the answer. I'm pretty sure, and I'm guarantee you this has to be on record somewhere in the hours and hours we discussed. But I feel like I was rooting for her to not be related to anyone that we knew.
Well, good news, bad news.
Yeah. So, yeah, we kind of wind up with the worst of both worlds. She is her parents were someone we didn't know,
Right.
but she was still connected with someone we did know. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember thinking, but I really don't remember thinking, oh, they wouldn't have the guts to make it this person or whatever, anything like that. So, yeah. What about you, Pete? Do you remember thinking it was going to be somebody specific?
In the theater, no, I don't remember having a specific. I remember kind of the same as you, kind of going in with hopes, and I think I liked the I did really like the idea of Ray Nobody, just because it's always, anytime we can expand the universe rather than cinching it up, making it tight. But I think out of the available options, I think I was also kind of like, oh, Ray Kenobi would at least make the, a little branch of the tree that we're all familiar with, instead of just kind of the same closed loop of having to be Skywalker-y. And we did get a kind of a slight branch, but I think the way this resolves, I think, ends up being important to her character in the long run, and that's, even though it felt like a little bit like maybe as a cinematic thing, be like, oh, it's just her.
Oh wait, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, sorry, that's tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow, I guess.
I think that I had not yet watched the Clone Wars series before I saw this movie. I watched that after this movie, and I do wonder if, having seen Clone Wars and knowing that it was technically canon, I wondered if I would have thought more strongly or passionately about the Kenobi argument, because there is definitely that internet joke that Satine's nephew on Clone Wars looks like a perfect combination of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine. So it's like, oh, her nephew is this random. So if it turned out that like that kid was Obi's like secret son, and then like Rey was the center of that kid. So I think that like if I had seen that beforehand, I would have had much deeper of a rabbit hole of like, okay, so there's a path from Mandalore to this. Yeah. So
here's how it would work.
Yeah.
Well,
this kid would have kids. That's basically how it works.
Along those lines, let's spitball for a second. What's the most ridiculous character that you can conceivably draw a line to? Like, who could it be in the mirror? Like, how could it be like my go-to for any kind of ridiculous background thing is often like Boshek. Like, what if it was Boshek in the mirror? How could we make that? Well, that would be an easy thing, because Boshek is basically a vagrant kind of who spent a lot of time on desert planets, as far as we can tell. So that would be easy. That would be perplexing for the audience, but I would have been like, oh, that makes sense. But what's the most ridiculous character that you think we could draw a line to? Feasible? Like, obviously. It's hard with droids and kind of non-humanoid creatures, Walrus Man can't be.
Well, I remember a theory when Rogue One was coming out that a lot of people thought the reason why they cast an actress who looked so much like Daisy Ridley to play Jyn Erso was that it was supposed to imply that that was Rey's mother. And so I think if it was Jyn Erso, then you'd be like, okay, so when did she have a baby prior to the events of Rogue One?
Right.
Or like how long were they on that beach before that shockwave took them down? So I think that might be like
10 months later.
Yeah, in the conceivable people that you could think of, I think that would have been a little bit like, once we saw what happened in Rogue One, I think it would be a lot harder to be like, oh no, that was Rey's mom too. She just had a baby like prior and we didn't really talk about it. Like, yeah.
Right. I think in the grand scheme of things, that probably came down to more just kind of consolidated casting, right? They're like, oh, we're looking for people kind of like this. All right, we'll use that one for this movie, this one for this movie.
Probably.
They definitely have a type over there.
Right, yeah.
British.
I think that it's tough. I like. So what you mean? People we legitimately could say? Like, 'cause my thing, it would be like Ahsoka Tano or something, where you're like, what? How on earth could that possibly be true? And then it would never be explained.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's tough with droids and non-humanoids to draw that parallel. But
then again, Jason Syndulla is just like a human kid with green hair. Like, there's like, it's weird that like the child of a Twi'lek and a human just looks like a human with green hair. Like, it's like weird that it's like there's not more Twi'lekiness to him. So I don't understand the way that Star Wars children work to begin with.
So you might know more. You might know do we see more offspring? I can't in the movies. I can't think of any alien human hybrids, but. Like, so you're saying in the Clone Wars we do see human alien. That's a very
Star
Trek
in Rebels, yeah.
thing.
But
yeah, Rebels. They're all the same universe, but yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other and we only see Jason for like a scene, so I might even be like misremembering exactly what he looks like. I just remember thinking it was strange. I'm trying to think of any other.
I just can't believe we haven't seen one. It just seems so like such an obvious thing.
Well, I think it's because
It's gross.
Star Wars. No, yeah, I believe. I think Star Wars is really all about purity of the species. No, I think. Sorry, that's EU. Sorry, let's Legends. I think it's mostly because Star Wars is a fairly chaste storyline. So I think like we only really meet characters' children if they're really, really important to a story. Otherwise, we don't really see a lot of people who have kids. So I'm trying to think of any example of a mix. Like we don't have like a saga type thing where you have like the child of two warring races that are now born. I'm trying to think of any other example. I'm sure there's a book somewhere, and I'm sure somebody who has read them is like yelling at their iPhone right now. But yeah. I can't think of it on top of my head. At least as far as on screen is concerned.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Maybe we'll get. Maybe if the Rian Johnson trilogy proceeds as it seems like it's going to, maybe we'll get that thrown in here. He likes to play with the creatures.
Sorry, there is talk. I know that in one of the Princess Leia books, there's like a mention from young Holdo that kind of makes Holdo canonically like pansexual, where like she says like there's so many races and so many types out there. Like why would you limit yourself? And Leia's like, nah, just human dudes. That's it. I'm good. That's all I need. And so I think like the fact that was put in, like that was kind of a big moment then of being like, oh, let's expand this universe a little bit to imply there is this. So I think that maybe we just haven't gotten to those kind of things yet.
Now I just got to a new headcanon because we see, we is he in this movie mainly, or he's mainly in the next one? I don't know. Do we?
DJ?
No, Junior. Admiral Akbar's son is smoother and a little bit less calamari looking, so maybe Holdo and Akbar had a kid, and that's Junior.
I could see that.
If Junior had purple hair, I would totally buy it.
Right. Well, he doesn't have hair anywhere. Maybe he shaves it. It's like a military thing, buzz cut.
Choice. The thing the thing I'm going to say in defense of not having hybrids is it is a more realistic thing. I mean, a cat and a dog can't have a baby together, so why would a Greedo and a human be able to have a baby together? I guess.
But animals, animals. Some animals can co-produce, right? Like a mule is literally a horse and a donkey.
Right,
combined.
but they're similar to each other on Earth terms. They're very similar animals. It's not like a cockroach and a horse are having a child together
that we know of.
But I guess in an age where you can clone things, I guess that kind of stuff wouldn't even really. I've
just been reading a book about genetics, and that it seems like it's more. Well, it's unknown how much. I think a lot of the fact that you don't see that comes from the fact that it doesn't happen in nature. That they wouldn't be copulating in nature, but.
Right.
And then there's kind of ethics and stuff that are then kind of preventing it from proceeding in labs to see exactly how. There was a Russian scientist who did a lot of kind of work and successfully produced a couple of different kind of hybrid animals. I think he invented the Zedonk.
I mean, even like the domesticated animals that we have now are from centuries of breeding different types of animals together to find the ones that. But also, I just had it and I lost it. I think we're talking about like Akbar and Holdo, for example. I think that there is to Alex's point, there might be some limitations to that, because I was just thinking to myself about like we've seen the frog lady and her husband on Mandalorian. Like obviously, a human male probably could not. Fertilize that jar full of pickled baby eggs. Like
maybe doesn't mean you won't try.
yeah. Doesn't mean they won't try. If they can get to him before Grogu gets to him first. But I think that. So I think like depending on how like the Mon Calamari reproduce, that might prevent like an Akbar and a Holdo pairing. But we know that Twi'leks and humans can procreate because we've seen it happen, and we haven't seen it physically happen. We've seen the child, but like, so there is some element to that. But
that's interesting. We have to keep. I bet that'll happen in the next within the next, let's say, 5 Star Wars projects. We will see at least one. Hybrid between a humanoid and an alien that we're familiar with, like a more of a a Twi'lek or a
I could see it.
I wonder how far out you could go with it. Like what a human Wookiee hybrid would be weird.
Like a human Hutt. Like
Oh,
I could say a Wookiee-human hybrid. I mean, they're both mammal-ish, at least.
Right.
yeah.
it would look like Chaka or something, right?
Yeah.
Who do you think is more surprised this is where this conversation went based on this minute of this show? Do you think it's us or do you think it's the audience? It's probably us, right? The audience is probably like, yeah, this seems about right.
I think
Right.
they've more or less stopped at this point. So I think it's just the three of us having a chat right now.
We're literally Jason Lee in the film Mallrats right now, like talking about.
Somebody did have Chaka on their Star Wars Minute bingo card and just got to check it off. So that's
Oh,
good.
nice.
On that note, maybe we'll pick this back up tomorrow because we do get to find out who Rey sees in the mirror. Riley, can you come back tomorrow and join us for some more discussion?
Yeah,
of
I
this?
think so. That
All
sounds
right.
good.
Listeners,
Yes,
if
Pete,
you
I can come back tomorrow too.
All right. Listeners, if you want to chime in about who you thought was going to be in the mirror, or if you you want to yell at us about hybrid creature or hybrid alien race humanoid. I mean, everybody's an alien in Star Wars, but you know what we mean. You want to tell me I'm wrong about Junior Akbar? Why not check us out on Twitter. We're at Star Wars Minute. Or Instagram, the Star Wars Minute, or on Facebook, the Star Wars Minute Listener Society, which I've returned to, and it's a fun place. And I don't go to the rest of Facebook. I just kind of go there, and one or two groups related to things that I love, and that's one of them. It's a fun place again. And that's StarWarsMinute.com/Facebook. You can get there. Then come back here tomorrow for a brand new Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.
Boy,